Hi everyone, my name's John. I'm from bannerbear.com, and in this presentation I'm just going to do a kind of a recap of the last 3 years of my solo bootstrapped SaaS founder journey. And this is going to live in a new segment on the website called Journey to $1 million in annual recurring revenue. So let's get started. First of all, I'm going to assume that most of you, if you're watching this already, you know what these two terms are. For those of you who don't, SaaS is software as a service, and I'll be using the word SaaS a lot during this presentation. Software as a service basically just means software that you're buying, usually through a web-based interface. Most of us use SaaS these days, like Slack is SaaS, Zoom is SaaS. You get the idea, and you pay for it monthly. MRR I'll also be using a lot in this presentation, and that means monthly recurring revenue. So that is the primary kind of performance metric that we use when talking about, how our SaaS company is doing. Where is our MRR growing? Is it shrinking? Is it sort of flat? So I'll be using that term a lot. If you don't know who I am, this is me. My name is John Yongfook. You can find me at Yongfook on Twitter. I'm an entrepreneur, developer. I've been using Ruby on Rails now for, maybe like over 10 years. And my one claim to fame is that I'm on an ad for a zoo. If you ever go to the zoo in Singapore, you'll see my photo plastered all over the place. So this is my company. It's called bannerbear.com. And I'm actually not really going to talk about the company too much in this presentation. This deck is really more about like how I've grown this company from $0 MRR to where we are today. And, what the company actually does is not necessarily relevant to the presentation. You are very welcome to check it out if you like, bannerbear.com, and you can go and have a look at what it does. I also am really bad at explaining what it does, so generally I try to just let the website do the speaking for me. So this is where we currently stand. We're currently on around $35,000 in monthly recurring revenue. And actually at the time of this presentation, I haven't updated this slide, we actually just hit 36,000 US dollars monthly recurring revenue. So again, that means that's the amount of monthly subscription revenue that's coming in every month from customers who are subscribed to use my software, my SaaS. This has taken a while to get going. At this point, the company is profitable. We have a few employees now, but it all started about 3 years ago when I was by myself, no employees, no co-workers, no co-founder, and no revenue. So this little deck is basically a recap of the last 3 years of that journey. And as you can see, the first year or so was really spent earning nothing. So what was I doing? And how did it all start growing? That's the kind of questions I'm hoping to answer for you. And hopefully if you're on your own SaaS journey, there'll be a part of this little talk that should be relevant to you, because I think most of us are, so some of the lucky few who have been working very, very hard for a long time are way past this stage now. So maybe this won't be very relevant to you. But if you're starting out on your journey, or you're like a couple of years into your journey, there should be some useful information in here. All of my stats have been open from the very beginning. So if you want to have a look at the current real-time revenue, you can go to bannerbear.com/open, and you'll see the user acquisition stats, the marketing site traffic stats, and also revenue stats. So let's dial back to the very beginning, $0 MRR. What was I doing? And as you can see, this chart starts in January and ends in August, but actually the $0 stage goes a bit further than that, a few months more. So this is my figuring things out stage. At the very beginning of this at the far left side of this chart, I left my last job. So my last job was in a big sort of, I wouldn't say boring, it was quite interesting, but it was in a big kind of traditional company, I would say. Not a cool like FANG company or anything like that. Big traditional company. I was fairly senior. I had saved up a lot of money. And I was like, okay, now is the time that I'm going to do something for myself, because I kind of reached the end of my usefulness at a big company. Once you get to like this sort of senior manager level, there's not really many places for you to go, unless you want to, unless you want to play sort of the Game of Thrones style political games, and you want to get even more senior and be, head of a country, head of a region, that kind of thing. So I had kind of reached the end of my corporate career, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do something for myself. I can still code. I know how to build a product, and I've got some runway. So let's do this. So at first I tried to do this 12 startups in 12 months challenged. And that is something it's a framework, if you like, that was made famous by Peter Levels. And you basically just try to push out a new startup product every month. Okay, and you try and do that 12 times in a row consecutively. And it's really exhausting, but it's a really good way of exploring a lot of areas. It's a really good way of practicing shipping, because you have to ship something at the end of the month. If you don't, then everything starts to overlap and you just get into a big mess. So you have to ship at the end of the month. So I managed to do 7 of these. They were all kind of like different things. I launched a job board. I launched a non-real-time video chat tool, which is the one in the middle there. I launched a little remote team visualization tool and a few other things. All you have to know is that none of them really made any money, and they all basically failed. So what went wrong is what we're going to talk about. What went right, though, is I got really good at doing this. So I would get into this kind of like rhythm of, building the product in like 3 weeks or so, like a really bare bones MVP, build it in 3 weeks, and then spend that last week of the month just doing all of the promotional stuff. So writing a blog post, writing a newsletter, writing a bunch of tweets, writing a product hunt launch, all this kind of thing. And you do that 7 times in a row, and it becomes quite natural to you. So that was kind of like a skill that I built up over that period. So that was one of the good outcomes. So I shipped a new product every month. That was a positive outcome. I learned how to build and ship consistently, and consistency, as we'll see later, is a very, very useful skill to have, very, very useful habit to have in your founder journey. But I didn't really care about the problems enough. So in retrospect, I think what went wrong here was I chose things to build based on whether I thought they were a cool idea or whether I thought they were going to make a lot of money. And I think my priorities were just not really in the right place. I now believe that the best, if you're kind of like wondering what to do and wondering what to build, and you've got a few different ideas, I think the best quality is in an idea is how excited are you about it, and how what's the word? How relevant are you as the founder to bring this product into the world? Are you an expert on this space, and that's what makes you relevant as a founder? If there's no kind of like connection to you as a founder, and there's no personal level of interest, I don't think that it's possible to get a product to any kind of level of success. I think you need one of those two things, or ideally both. Okay. The other problem I had at this stage was I was way too complacent. So I mentioned that I had saved up a bunch of money, and I was coasting along on this, runway, and I didn't have any kind of didn't feel any kind of urgency to make money, or to, start pricing higher, or start, really trying to dig into who's the ideal customers and why would they pay, and how, what kind of plans can I get them to upgrade to. I was just way too complacent during this stage. So that's why I stayed on 0 revenue for the entire time. All right, so now we're on to the next phase. We're at $488 MRR. So something changed here. Let's see what changed. Still not quite, ramen profitable or anything, depending on your definition of ramen profitable. I would say ramen profitable is probably around like 2,000 USD, 3,000 USD, but this is like $500 USD. And as you can see, it's kind of like still a bit unstable, right? But something changed, obviously. So I'm earning a bit of revenue now. This is in around end of 2019, early 2020. Okay, so I launched Banner Bear. So what did I do here? It wasn't just some kind of shot in the dark, flash of brilliance kind of idea. It was kind of an evolution of a few things that I had been working on during that 7 startups phase, and then actually in the middle, after that, I had a little bit of a reboot, and I tried to do another sort of 2 or 3 startups. Again, all failed. But what I noticed is that there was this one area that I was particularly interested in, and that was this whole idea of automated image generation, automated design, automated image generation, taking away this any kind of mundane design work that some designers are burdened with. And this idea stewed, and then eventually I had this, I made this connection to this job I used to have, maybe 10 years previous, where actually we had a lot of manual design work to do. And it was like banner design for e-commerce stores. And we had a big e-commerce store. We would upload maybe, let's say 50 new products every day. All of those 50 products had multiple cuts, we used to call them, different views of the product. Multiple cuts, and we want to turn those multiple cuts into different banners, and for different size banners, for different platforms, that kind of thing, different wordings. And as you can imagine, that was a ton of work. So we would do it all manually. This is back in 2007, maybe? All manually, and the creative team would be exhausted every day. It was just this grind that we had to go through. There was no automated solution back then for doing this. So I made this connection. I was like, oh, I've kind of half built, a tool that sort of would have massively solved that problem. Still didn't really know that there would be a market out there for it, but at least I knew that it was a massive problem for us. And if someone had come along at that stage, I was the CTO of that company. If someone had come along at that stage and said, here's this thing and it will cost you $1,000 a month to use, and it'll solve all of that stuff that you don't want to do, so your team can do things that they do want to do, I would have said, I would have whipped out my credit card and be like, where do I sign up? So that was some, initial kind of sort of self-validation, which isn't always the best thing to do, by the way. But at least there was that. And very quickly a product idea formed, and that product idea was, this was the first version of Banner Bear that launched, the first version of the landing page. And it's an API for doing image generation. So you send your data to Banner Bear, and Banner Bear sends you images back based on templates that you've set up. So to me, this was a cool combination of a tool that the design team could use to set up these templates once and then not have to deal with them anymore. And then the developer team could log in and maybe get an API key, and then they could do tests and stuff like that. So it was for me as a developer who also does a little bit of design, it was I felt oh, I'm the right person to make this product. And I've had the personal experience with this problem in the past. So I did another launch, and doing these launches on Twitter and Product Hunt, you'd think that people would get bored, but they'd be like, oh, John's working on something else. But actually, people seem to be pretty excited. I think people can I think that's why building in public can be a very powerful tool. When people see that you're really hustling and you're really working hard, I think it's an interesting story for people to follow. So you tend to get like a lot of support. So I launched this on, Twitter, Product Hunt, everywhere else. And okay, didn't go crazy. Most of the response was like, oh, that sounds really cool. But it's, didn't really connect with a target audience yet. But that's okay. We made a little bit of revenue and things are starting to look a bit better because I'm like, oh, I feel like I'm the right person to make this. Also around now, I'm realizing that Twitter is an amazing promotional tool for any kind of tech related products. The tech Twitter is very active, and I would be tweeting, I'm not just like launching my products and stuff on Twitter. I'm also, making little jokes and stuff, developer humor, and basically anytime I would have some kind of like frustration that I thought would also be kind of funny for other people to experience as well, I would tweet it, and usually would get like a nice, a good response. And you'd be surprised at how many people, so this one was a little joke I did about, I'm pretty experienced now as a full stack developer, but I'm still Googling stuff like how to check checkboxes checked. Because, you just forget, right? So, and a lot of people can empathize with that, and then they end up retweeting it or liking it. And then these kind of tweets, you'd be surprised at how much exposure it actually gets you. Whenever I tweet something like this, I get a massive spike on my marketing site. And, that's literally people who are like seeing this tweet and, engaging with it, but then also then clicking through to the profile and being like, oh, I wonder what he does. And then clicks on the link. You'd think it's like so many steps that people won't go through, but they do. People are like curious and, they want to see what you're building. So yeah, it's been like Twitter is worth investing time in if you have a tech product. So what's good at this stage? We've got paying customers finally. So that's nice. We've got good product founder fit. So that to me is that's the neat way of saying, what is your relevance to this product? Are you the right person to be bringing this product into the world? Do you have some like significant expertise in this area? Do you have experience in this area? Are you excited about this area? You need some of these checkboxes in order to, in order to succeed. The reason is, if you don't have those things, if you don't have good product founder fit, then all that will happen is you're going to grind through to a few $100 of MRR, and then you're going to get bored because you're not rich yet, and you'll end up doing something else, right? So I saw that pattern in myself over and over again, right? But with this one, I was like, I am the perfect person to be building this, so I'm going to see it through. I'm going to grind and grind and grind until we're making some money. The other reason why it's really important is because if you don't have that personal level of passion, and you don't have, a personal level of, experience or expertise in this area, someone will come along and they will have those attributes and they will build a competitor, and then you will lose because they will execute better than you, right? So that's another reason why product founder fit is super duper important. What went wrong here? Price too low. I made the classic indie hacker sort of bootstrap founder mistake of charging like $9 or $7 or something for a monthly subscription. And it is brutally hard to build a significant amount of MRR off the back of very low price subscriptions. You need thousands and thousands of customers to do that. And if you have a product with some kind of like mass appeal, and you're really, really good at marketing, then okay, it's achievable. But if you have a niche product, mine is definitely a niche product. It's something that only people who are doing kind of media automation, that's the target. It's marketing companies. It's specifically marketing teams within organizations that have a lot of volume of either SKUs or so my customers are e-commerce stores or real estate companies that have new listings going online every day. What else? It's publishing companies who have new articles going online every day, and they need to create automated assets from all of this stuff, right? So it's niche. It's not like I'm a B2B product, so I'm not a mass targeted product. So charging $9 a month for a product like mine does not make any sense. Okay. All right. Next stage. We're at $6,000 MRR now. Significantly jumped up. So what happened here? We're now past ramen profitability, right? We're now actually making a decent amount of money for a solo founder. This is like enough to live on, right? In most parts of the world, this is more than enough to live on. So finally, this is now a full-time job for me, and I can finally stop burning through my savings. But yeah, I say we as in you as part of this experience, we burnt through almost all my savings at this point. So I think we reached this level of profitability just in time. Okay. So the interesting thing here, the most interesting thing for you at this stage would be how consistent this growth looks. So how did I do that? So I explained it in this tweet. The number one thing I think that tech founders, which is what I am, tech founders have an issue with or have difficulty with is how do you fit in marketing or what marketing am I supposed to even be doing? There's a lot of these fundamental questions about marketing, and sometimes it's so difficult to answer that the founder just is like, I'm not going to do any. I'm just going to build the product and hope that people just find it. So for me, I decided to switch to a very strict cycle of 1 week of coding, 1 week of marketing, and then I repeat. 1 week of coding, 1 week of marketing, and then I repeat. Really simple. Some people try to, dice it up a bit differently, maybe 1 day of coding and then 1 day of marketing. For me, it's too much context switching. So I decided to do it on a week by week basis. And yeah, the easiest way to divvy it up is just to do 50-50. You could say, I'm in the early stages of the product, so I need to do more building than marketing. So I should do a 75-25 split. I think it's just too complicated. 50-50 has worked really well for me. I literally, I even built a little tool for it actually. So if you go to codingweekmarketingweek.com, you'll see a screen that tells you what week we're in. And that's the same pattern that I follow. Okay. So if you want to code along with me, you can do so. If you want to marketing along with me, you can also do so. codingweekmarketingweek.com. So the big question I think founders have is, even if they realize that they've got to do some marketing, and even if they, follow this 50-50 pattern, what do you actually do in marketing week? Coding week is easy, right? We've got a backlog of features that we want to build that customers maybe have asked for. That's obvious, but what do you do in marketing week? Well, there's a ton of things that you could be doing in marketing week. And because of that, I think it's so overwhelming that, that's where some of the friction is for technical founders. For me, I think pretty much this is the list of things that I have done in marketing week, in my marketing weeks. I never got any more complicated than this. I never did any paid advertising or partnerships or, I'm not saying those strategies are bad. I'm just saying that this is the list that I pretty much stuck to. So it was just tweeting things that are interesting to my target market, i.e. developers, participating in forums and just trying to be helpful in forums where there's some relevance to what you're doing, answering stuff in Stack Overflow, for example, improving the marketing site, or documentation. So if all else fails, marketing week can just be spent improving the marketing site, adding pages, adding text, improving the design, making the site faster. There's like a huge list of things that you can do just on the marketing side, right? So I've actually spent quite a lot of my time building out the marketing site. It's really big now. There's like hundreds and hundreds of pages of unique content. And that all helps with your SEO, right? Creating free tools. You can create ways to bring people in that then encourage them to check out what your paid offering does. Writing blog posts, obviously, and newsletters. That was really all my list. This is the pattern. I think probably it's not difficult to understand. It's like build features one week, write content the next week, and then I cap it off with a newsletter that recaps what features I've built, what content I've put out, and then go back to the beginning. Simple as that. So consistency builds momentum. I don't think that I would have achieved that nice straight line if I hadn't been consistent. So I was doing this 50-50 marketing coding split for like 7 months straight. Like every 2 weeks would send a newsletter, and then I would go back to coding week. Find out what works and do more of it. This is a really nice, simple piece of advice that it's like really captain obvious, but sometimes we forget the simple stuff. So if you feel you've got like a handle on one or two strategies that are working for you, then just do more of those. Don't complicate things by trying different things. There's like a time and a place for that. But if you've already got like one or two strategies that are working for you, then just do more of that or do it better. So for me, like documentation was a huge thing. I wanted developers to be able to come in and have really, really good documentation, really, really good help articles, tutorials are really important for us. Like the more tutorials we had, the more conversions we get, because there's more ways that people can see what Banner Bear actually does. So those are like the areas that I just kept on doing more of that. All right, next stage. We're at $10,000, well, $11,000 MRR now. And again, another nice little jump. So this is over the course of a couple of months, nice little jump. And this is where we, I keep saying we, this is where it's a we now because it's me and a small team now. But at this stage, it was still solo. And the main thing that I did here was I slightly tweaked the positioning. So I'm going to talk about that. Again, I was, celebrating my wins on Twitter, and just being transparent about wins and losses. Again, it helps people to, it brings people along on the journey with you. And I think a lot of people really enjoy that. They like to see the ups and the downs. And yeah, occasionally there'll be a nice big milestone. Like this one was where Banner Bear finally reached 100,000 in annual revenue, which is, it's pretty big milestone considering that a lot of people who've been following me have known me to, be on 0 MRR for a long time. So suddenly it's like, oh, you're on 100,000 annual revenue, and that's kind of a big deal. So you can see it got a ton of engagement and, a lot of, pats on the back, which is really nice. So the main thing I did about positioning here was I read this concept, read about this ideology or concept called jobs to be done, which I think is a very useful mental framework to think through what your customers need to see in order to spark their interest, in order to convince them that your offering is worth paying for, or worth spending a bit of time signing up for. So I'm not going to try and explain this ideology because I'll totally butcher it. I'll encourage you to go and Google it yourself. But in a nutshell, the best way I can describe it is, we all know that you shouldn't talk about features, you should talk about benefits, right? That's like the sort of marketing 101 of SaaS. Jobs to be done is like the next level up from that. So instead of talking about benefits, you talk about what is the job that your customers are trying to do, and how do you make it very clear that you are able to solve that, do that job for them, right? So I can just show you the before and after, so maybe that will become a little bit clearer. This is how Banner Bear launched. Automate your designs. Banner Bear is a simple REST API that automatically generates variations of graphic templates. It's actually a really, really terrible landing page copy. But somehow we got to, $6,000 MRR with this. I changed, after reading about jobs to be done, I changed it to this, which is automate and scale your marketing. So my customers, the job that they're looking to do is like, either they're looking to automate their role, right? So they can save some time or whatever, or they're looking to like massively scale something that they're doing, right? They've got like, I don't know, they're a marketplace they're a real estate marketplace, and they've got like hundreds of new listings going online every day, and they somehow need to create like 5 different assets from those listings, and they're looking to like massively scale, right? They're looking to make potentially thousands of banners a day, and maybe do some video. And so my customers fall into those 2 buckets in terms of the job that they're looking to do. Not only did the landing page change though, but I used this after I realized, these are the 2 jobs that my customers are doing. I started to use this language, automate and scale, all across the website. So you'll see it in, there's pages specific to automate, and there's pages specific to scale. There's tutorials that are specific to automating, and there are tutorials that are specific to scaling. The pricing plans have the word automate and scale in, because by the time the customer gets to choose their pricing plan, they'll pretty much already know what bucket they're in, right? Like I'm an automate customer, so I'm going to get the automate plan. They're not sitting there thinking, should I get the bronze, gold, or platinum plan? They're like, I'm looking to automate something, so I'm going to go for that. Another way of saying this is upgrade your user, not your product. And this image, I think, explains that pretty well. I took this from somewhere, by the way. This isn't my image. That's your potential customer is little Mario. Your product is the fire flower. And the thing that your customers are actually buying is they're not buying the fire flower. They are buying their desire to be Fire Mario, right? That's what jobs to be done is. Okay, next stage. We're at $21,000 MRR. So another big jump. This was over the course of about 6 months, 6 or 7 months. We 2x'd the revenue, the monthly revenue. And actually at this stage now I can say we, because by this time I was hiring. So I think I'll get onto that in the next couple of slides. All I'm doing really at this stage is I'm continuing my 50-50 split, coding and marketing. I'm investing in documentation. I launched this new API docs site, which I think looks really good as like a developer. I'm really proud of it. Continuing to, post these little nuggets of either like ranting or humor on Twitter. This one got an insane amount of engagement. But at this time I've now hired full-time customer support. So now I get to say things like, by this time I've realized customer support for us is a feature. You know, we have a highly technical product, right? It's an API, and you can integrate it in a number of different ways. You can either use the bare API, or you can use one of our no-code integrations. And there's things that you'll have questions about or potential issues with. But now I get to say that we have 24/7 customer support. You'll get a reply in like 5 minutes. So that is, you know, that's another sort of a value proposition that is attractive to my target segment. And, you know, it's kind of like continuing to do what works and do it even better and better. Because up until this point, I was providing all the customer support, and I think I was doing a pretty good job of it. But obviously, you know, I do sleep at certain times. So sometimes my customers would have to wait for an answer. But now I get to say that, you know, you'll get, you know, pretty much the same quality or even better than what I would offer, but the response will come a lot faster. And there's 2 dedicated people now. So I have 2 full-time customer support. They love them. They love them. I love them. Shout out to Rayon and Jeffrey. Yeah, that will continue to be an area that I invest in. We increase prices at this stage. So for new customers only, I don't think it's a good idea to raise prices for existing customers. For new customers only, we raised the pricing. So the entry-level plan stayed the same. The next 2 tiers went up in price. Okay, and now we're at we're at present day now. So $35,000 MRR. I honestly can't say that we've done anything really differently. We're just continuing to invest in documentation, customer support. I'm still doing 50% coding, 50% marketing. I'm still the only developer. Let's see where we are. So this has been the growth over the last 6 months, and we have a whole team now. So there's a fully remote team spread across bunch of different countries. We have 2 full-time customer support, 2 full-time marketing, 1 full-time designer, and me. I'm a little bit of everything, but mostly my job hasn't really changed that much. I'm still doing 50% coding, 50% marketing. So we've done some awesome stuff over the last 6 months. Really proud of our knowledge base. It's got like 150 plus articles in it. And, you know, obviously it's really useful for customers they can self-diagnose through this if they want, but it's also useful for us to just to reply to customers with, you know, when they inquire to customer support, we get to point them to an article that says, hey, here's the steps you need to go through. And and I'm really pleased with this. We've got a full, like, proper, inbox system now for customer support. So, you know, the ticket will come in and we can assign it to whoever. We can exchange, you know, little conversation before we reply to the customer just to make sure we've got the answer correct. That kind of thing. So I'm really happy with that. We just brought on a full-time designer now. So, she's doing great work, and she's helping us do a little bit more kind of branding stuff, you know, along with helping us design a bunch of new templates. So you'll see this little guy pop up across the site from now on in various different poses. Okay, this is where we are. We're about that's the goal, to get to $83,333 MRR. If you know, you know. If you don't know, then basically that at a monthly rate, when you 12x that to get your annual rate, that equals $1 million. So at that point, you'll be doing $1 million in annual revenue. It's probably like the first major milestone for, bootstrapped companies at my size. Anything in between here is like, I don't know, it's kind of like, it's meh. Like you're always, from this point onwards, you're always going to be aiming for that 333. So yeah, we're about less than halfway there. The plan from here on out is we have to start targeting larger companies. So I'll be looking into ways of doing that. We have a base of kind of like solo no-code customers who use Banner Bear with Zapier and with Integromat, or now known as Make. But I'm definitely interested in, the only way that we're going to accelerate up to 83,000 MRR a month is to get bigger and bigger customers on board. So there's a whole bunch of kind of like, not marketing repositioning, but we've got to get better at telling the story of how we can, how we help those kind of companies. I've got a bunch of product updates I have to do around, larger teams being basically just, making Banner Bear better to use with larger teams. You can currently use Banner Bear with a large team, but the UI isn't really optimized for it, that kind of thing. So a bunch of stuff to do there. And yeah, and we're already halfway through the year. That's the really scary thing. So, I hope you've enjoyed that. That was just kind of like a recap of the last 3 years. What else can I say? I'm going to put this video on a new section of the website called Journey to 1 Million ARR. And I'll be creating more content around, what I'm doing on this journey and the challenges that I'm facing and things like that. So there'll be a newsletter thing to subscribe to. So make sure you subscribe to that if you're interested in following along. Follow me on Twitter. Also, I'll obviously be tweeting this content. And yeah, if you have any questions about this journey, if you want to talk about, if you want to ask a specific question about one of those stages, what I was doing, because obviously I had to kind of gloss over some stuff, just send me an email at john@bannerbear.com, and I'll try and reply as soon as I can. And thank you for watching. I'll see you around.